The National Veterans Legal Services Program has worked since 1981 to ensure that the government delivers to our nation's 22 million veterans, service members, and their families the benefits to which they are entitled because of disabilities resulting from their military service to our country.
One of NVLSP's strongest attributes is our ability to leverage our expertise and affect beneficially large groups of veterans and their families. We bring class actions and law reform lawsuits that affect large groups of veterans and their families.
In 2019, NVLSP secured 2 landmark class action victories on behalf of veterans and their families. The first, Godsey v. Wilkie, ordered the Veterans Administration to promptly review cases in which veterans appealed the VA's denial of their claims for benefits. Veterans often waited 3 years or more just for the VA to certify their appeals.
We drilled down on why the delays existed and found that a part of the delay was due to the VA warehousing appeals at the regional office without moving them along, just sitting on their hands. And so we were able to get the court to order them to move the case to the next level, next part of the appeal system in 120 days. So those people are going to get decisions by the Board of Veterans' Appeals much quicker than they would otherwise.
The second class action victory, Wolf v. Wilkie, ordered the VA to reimburse veterans for all of their past and future emergency medical expenses not covered by the veterans' private insurance at non-VA facilities.
There are hundreds of thousands of veterans who have emergencies, and they have to go and get emergency care at a non-VA facility. And the VA regulation said that if you have partial insurance, we're not going to reimburse you for the components that you have to pay for. These are bills that are for often tens of thousands of dollars. Given the number of people involved, the VA estimates that they'll have to pay out over the next 10 years between $2 billion and $6 billion in reimbursements.
Through our Lawyers Serving Warriors pro bono program, NVLSP also assists veterans and their families on an individual level, often with life-changing results.
Every service member and every family is unique, but at the end of the day, there's so many sacrifices that every single military family goes through.
It was about midway through high school, and at that time in my life, I sat down, I started doing some thinking, and I realized if I don't make some changes in my life, I'm not gonna make it in life. So I joined the Navy.
I joined the Air Force because of my grandfathers. They both served, and some of my uncles served in the military as well, so I just wanted to follow in their footsteps.
I went to SFWD, Strike Fighter Wing Pacific Detachment in Fallon, Nevada. And then I went to Atsugi, Japan, served with VFA 27 for 4 years. Came back to Fallon, Nevada, and served with Top Gun, or Naval Strike and Air Warfare Center. That's where Shauna and I met and got married.
My first duty station was Aviano, Italy, and I did security forces, so I worked in restricted areas guarding the equipment and personnel.
We met in Italy. It was my first duty station as well. And I got there November '97, and we got married 6 months later. And it was literally love at first sight, which sounds so cliche and crazy, but it was.
I was about 25 years old. It was 2005, on board the USS Kitty Hawk aircraft carrier, running around on the flight deck. Having a really good time, but my knees started to hurt. For some reason, I didn't know why. And over the course of time, more joints got involved. My hands started to ache constantly, my spine especially. Loading bombs and weapons on an aircraft carrier, loading them on an F-18 or any other airplane for that, you're carrying up to 500 to 1,000 pounds sometimes.
After suffering for years while ably performing his duties as an ordnanceman, Nathaniel was diagnosed with psoriatic and osteoarthritis, along with degenerative spinal disc disease. Along with that diagnosis came another blow. The Navy deemed him unfit for duty when he was less than 2 years from retirement.
To serve that long, get so close to retirement, it gutted me. It felt worse than the disease did. There was days that I couldn't really operate because of worrying about how to take care of the family, worrying about how to take care of Shauna and Mackenzie and Lucas and Damien, and to have to tell my parents that I had failed, my brothers and sisters that I had failed my wife, failed my kids. It was very nearly impossible for me to take.
NVLSP took on Nathaniel's case through the Lawyers Serving Warriors program with pro bono partner Winston and Strawn.
He was in the service for about 18 and a half years, and I think most people know that you need 20 years to vest for military pension. And so the result of that was that he was both found unfit for duty, which would have caused him to be separated from the service before his pension vested, and yet the medical evaluator only found him 20% disabled, which would not have entitled him to disability and mostly extensive medical benefits thereafter. So it was he was between a rock and a hard place.
The team of NVLSP and Winston and Strawn prepared to represent Nathaniel at the Navy Board hearing.
We put together a very powerful case, and we're prepared to go to war. That's what we do. We got to the hearing. I went in, and the whole panel was there. And he said, at the outset, he said, "Ms. Mills, we've read everything that you've written." And I said, "Good. We're prepared to proceed."
I had this hope that they were going to see his service, his character. It was just screaming off the pieces of paper. This is a guy the Navy should want.
He said, "What do you want?" I said, "I want him to get to 20, and he's well qualified on permanent limited duty to 20, and he's absolutely more disabled than 20%. So I want it all." And he said, "Deal."
I saw Esther come out of one of the rooms, and she said, "They want to find you fit to continue naval service. Make it to 20 years and give you a full retirement."
So much relief that, you know, our future was going to be covered, and we didn't have to worry about whether or not we were going to make those medical bills pay, and not just for him. We have a son who is on the autism spectrum too, and he requires some therapy and stuff, and so we were going to have those medical benefits that would help cover those things for him and our other kids as well.
I knew what we had accomplished was life-changing for him. You know, we were giving him the ability to get the health care that he needed, the retirement that he deserved, and provide a better life for his family. So it was life-altering, and we knew it.
Peter Guidry's case posed an unprecedented legal challenge.
My primary duty was protection of the airplane, so we carried an M60 machine gun. And so that was the genesis of the start of my disabilities. When you're carrying a gun that's weighing 23 pounds in one hand, your body becomes off-center. That was the beginning of my issues, on top of the bilateral knee damage running with the weapons and things like that. It's just a day-to-day grind, you know. It's a physically demanding job. Have a lot of fun of it, but there is a cost to freedom and side effects for doing something you love. The injuries caused me to have spasms, so my upper and lower back completely locks up. I literally turned into Frankenstein, wasn't able to move my head left or right. It left me incapacitated for days on end, that I just couldn't physically do anything but just lay there until the actual muscle spasms released.
Peter eventually moved to a position that was less strenuous, but even that new post was too much. He was deemed physically unfit for duty and discharged by the Air Force. Even worse, Peter was denied a disability retirement and the medical benefits that go with it.
He got medically discharged. He actually felt ashamed. He felt like he had let his grandfathers down. The hardest part was watching him suffer and not being able to help him. I could see the physical, and I experienced the physical, but the mental was far worse. You're like 24, you have a wife, you have a home, a mortgage, and I didn't realize how scary it must have been for him to just be out. They didn't give him any retraining, they didn't give him anything.
I really didn't understand the process when I first got out the military as far as the available benefits and things of that nature.
We looked at his case and we immediately saw that there was a legal error. We then reached out to, Daryl Steensma and, his team at Latham & Watkins.
We had a number of very in-depth conversations with David and Bart Stitchman about how we could best present our arguments to the court to obtain the goal of reversing the PDBR decision in Peter's case.
Daryl was amazing because 7 years ago when I was going through this, I was more affected with the stuttering and my speech patterns, so I wasn't able to communicate that well with people, and there's a lot of anger because I was in severe pain. I was just amazed of his level of compassion. It was like, did the NVLSP program prep this guy to be able to deal with people like me? Because the VA didn't treat me that kind.
The team submitted its brief to the PDBR, but was denied. Because there is no option for appealing a PDBR decision, it took the unprecedented step of appealing the ruling in federal district court.
We were in uncharted territory. Nobody had ever appealed a PDBR decision before.
The long and short of it is that the PDBR, after going there again, they finally realized that, they needed to provide Mr. Guidry a disability retirement.
When they did come back with a favorable decision, I was surprised and elated. It's not something I counted on.
That decision will allow him to receive a stipend from the military, for the rest of his life. And equally as important, it will allow him to access the military healthcare system called TRICARE. It will also allow, his spouse and, family to also have that, access as well to TRICARE.
The NVLSP program was able to actually force the military to do the right thing. They won the federal lawsuit in court and it was beyond belief. That's what's amazing about it. They did something that doesn't exist.